Welcome back to Morning Scramble in Prescott. I'm DJ Phone sitting in for Sandy Moss. She's coming back tomorrow. Want to remind you, coming up Wednesday, Yavapai College presents the Sing Off Live Tour that features a cappella groups from the NBC TV show The Sing Off. And each group will perform Wednesday with no lip syncing, no backup bands, and no safety net. That's Wednesday at 7:30 at the Yavapai College Performing Arts Center. You can get more information at ycpac.org. We are pleased to welcome David Berger and Mary Ellen Rivero to the show this morning. They are involved. They are Peace Corps volunteers. David and Mary Ellen, welcome to the show. Tell us exactly what you're here to talk about your experience in the Peace Corps, David.
Sure. Well, so I was a community health and improvement project volunteer in Zambia, and Mary Ellen was as well. And so we talked about a variety of subjects, but we worked in community health and community improvement, specifically talking about HIV and AIDS, opportunistic infections, water and sanitation, nutrition, integrated reproductive health, and maternal health. So quite a few different topics.
So for those of us who have maps and globes going back many, many years, what was Zambia formerly known as?
Northern Rhodesia.
Now we're talking. Okay, my old geography teacher just went on, huh? Okay, very good. And Mary Ellen, tell us what it's like to be overseas like that in this kind of a setting. It's got to be a lot different from what people expect, I would think.
Very much so. When I received my welcome letter, I cried when I saw the living conditions that I was expected to live in. We are alone in a village, the only American in a village. It's very much a immersion experience. I went to a well to draw water, and in order to prepare my meals, I had to cook on a coal fire, so building fires twice a day. So a lot of our daily activities that we take for granted here in America, we had to learn how to do the alternative ways. And but the people were very welcoming. They were very proud to have Americans to come in and give them technical support. And we're a human resource organization, so we're there with our skill set, and we just find out what they need in their village and what they want, and we try to meet those needs through grants and through human skills building.
I'm glad you mentioned how the American presence was welcome there. David, do you see any kind of misconception people have here about how we're received overseas?
Definitely. I think a lot of people are afraid of going overseas, especially in how they'll be received, how the reception will be in terms of culture, in terms of the perception of the American. You know, there's a fantastic book, The Ugly American, which talks about kind of this perception of how Americans are seen overseas. And when you travel and you get to visit these cultures, you really get a deeper understanding of how much they look up to the United States and how much the dream of America is alive in them and in their hearts, and how excited they are to be able to interact with an American. So it's a really positive, enriching experience that's also very humbling, because it allows you to really value your community and your opportunity that's available here in the United States.
I like what Mary Ellen said. We take a lot of things for granted here, don't we? So when you prepare someone, now you've been overseas to Africa how many times?
Well, so I was there for 3 years, and Mary Ellen was as well.
Okay.
So back and forth a couple of times.
If you're taking someone there with the Peace Corps for the first time, how do you prepare them?
It's a good question.
It's got to be a culture shock.
It is. Peace Corps does a fantastic job, and it's all about community from day one, which is what we'll talk about a little bit with the RPCV group. But the idea is that when you come to the staging in Philadelphia, you get to meet the other volunteers that are in your intake, and you form a bond with that community. And that gives you a little bit of a foundation and a standing. And then you're with them through the flight all the way to South Africa, and then up to Zambia, and then through your first 3 months, well, it's 11 weeks, and you train with them 8 hours a day. You know, 4 hours of language in the morning, 4 hours of cross-culture and technical training in the afternoon, 6 days a week. And so you have a very intensive training period where you're bonding with your fellow intake members, but you're also bonding with the host country nationals. So Peace Corps participates in host families. So when you enter the host country during that training phase, you're in a safe environment with vetted families that take care of you, that introduce you to the country. introduce you to the culture, teach you how to cook again, teach you how to do laundry by hand and where to get soap, and teach you what's safe to eat and what's not so safe to eat, and introduce you to some local foods like caterpillars or termites, you know. So you have a lot of these really interesting experiences. And that gets you on the ground, it gets you moving, and it gets you acclimated to a completely different culture, different sounds, different environment, you know, and it really sets you down that path. And then you start your service. So that's why Peace Corps service initially is 27 months, is you have that 3 months of training, and then you have your 2 full years of service to the country.
So Mary Ellen, describe the language barrier when you first go overseas.
Okay. Like David mentioned, we get 4 hours a day, including Saturdays, in language.
And what is the predominant language in Zambia?
There are 7 predominant languages, and we are divided into language groups depending on which area of the country we'll be placed in. Both David and I worked with the Bemba people, which are part of the Bantu tribes language, and so they're cousins to some Tanzanians, etc., and not that dissimilar from Swahili. But during that 4 hours, it's very much of a barrier because the structure of the language is very different than the European languages. Like, we'll put endings on our words to change it from a noun to a verb. They put that at the beginning of the word. So sometimes the root word is 2 letters long and it's in the smack dab in the middle of the word, and it's like, that's fine for the written part, but when you're speaking it and somebody comes out with the beginning, it's like, what did you just say? So it's intensive to learn the tribal languages, but that's one of the things Peace Corps has done, is if we want to make an impact in the village, we have to speak the language of the people, because especially with women, who are the heart of any society, they don't go through high school. They have maybe 3.7 years of formal education. They're not speaking English, even though that is the official language of Zambia.
And David, your service over there hasn't given you a sudden taste for caterpillars, has it?
Not quite, no.
That's good. That's
Not
very
quite
good.
that.
David Berger and Mary Ellen Rivero, thank you so much for joining us. We'd love to have you on again on my radio show someday to talk about your experience in the Peace Corps. It's got to be a humbling experience for anybody. That's David Berger and Mary Ellen Rivero on behalf of the Peace Corps. Thanks again for joining us today on Morning Scramble. And coming up, we're going to be talking science, technology, and kids with the SciTech Festival coming up on Morning Scramble. I'm DJ Phone in for Sandy Moss. She's back tomorrow. More coming up on Morning Scramble on AZTV.